This week on Painting Lines.
I'm wondering if he would just retire if he wins this gold.
I just feel like this guy's exploded onto the scene out of nowhere. Like 3 or 4 months ago, nobody knew who this guy was, really.
Welcome to the Painting Lines podcast, your one-stop shop for all things tennis. Join Erik and Aidan in their discussion for updates on news and pop culture, and from hot takes to betting, they've got you covered.
Ready? Play.
Welcome back to Painting Lines. Last week, we broke down an eventful week of tennis, and this week, we thought we'd do something a little bit different, recording in the middle of the week on Wednesday, and that will give us a little bit of an interesting perspective on what happened in tournaments from last week, as well as being in the midway of this week and the Olympics going on. So just give our thoughts on what's happening there and in other tournaments as well. So, Erik, do you want to kick us off with an interesting thing that's happening right now?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. Big shout out to Dan Evans. So he skipped the Washington tournament to play in the Olympics, which means he's going to lose all 500 points from last year and be ranked outside 170 next week, which this will drop him 110 ranking points from last year. Like, Dan Evans is a guy that's obviously struggled this past year, and he decided to willingly play the Olympics instead of Washington. And to be honest, I love this move because he's playing, first of all, with Andy Murray, who we're not going to see on the tour for much longer. And this is the spirit of the Olympics. This is what it's all about. We kind of touched on this last week where, certain people are opting out for lack of a better word, selfish reasons to kind of protect their rankings and play in these other tournaments. And Dan Evans is just selfless, classy guy playing in the Olympics for his country, for Great Britain, alongside Andy Murray. And those guys have just been electric too.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way of looking at it, is that it's all being selfless and giving up these ranking points. Another way of looking at it is like it does kind of give him an excuse about this. Like if he's going to be ranked 170 with one tournament being taken away, it kind of shows that his past year he has not been very good, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, it's kind of like, oh, I'm not playing in this tournament, so that's why I'm falling down so far. It's like, yeah, but you also were in all likelihood not going to defend that tournament win. So you can look at it, I guess, in both perspectives there.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is probably the highlight of his year. Like, however far they go, because he's had such an atrocious year. And the fact that they've been so exciting, saving all those match points and just getting the crowd in. Like, I think I'm sure he'd rather have a higher ranking than this performance in the Olympics, but at least he kind of gets to redeem himself in some way. So
Yeah.
for the British people who have been watching and being like, God damn it, Dan Evans is sucking, could be like, let's go, Dan. He's saving another one. He's playing with Murray. They're making a run.
Yeah, I mean, if he got the gold medal, I think it'd be worth it. But
Oh, let's go.
I don't,
That,
I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know if it's
yeah.
worth it just if he doesn't really get anything out of it and he loses so much of a ranking. I
I
mean,
guess the only
it feels to me kind of like if Eubanks was like, oh, I'm not going to play in Wimbledon this year because I'm going to this charity event. That's why I'm going to lose so many ranking points. It's like he's like, yeah, I don't know if that's the actual explanation, but I think it is cool to see them playing well in the Olympics.
yeah. So he must have been what? I wonder how they got paired up together, Murray and Evans, because
I
I'm
mean,
sure like
I don't know.
Draper and Nori
Yeah,
are.
I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, I don't know how that happened. I didn't really. Or is Nori playing singles?
I don't believe so, but I know Draper is.
Yeah, so I maybe Draper
Yeah.
wanted to just focus on singles, and then Nori, I don't know what's going on with him, and then they were just like Dan Evans and Murray, you guys are going to be the doubles team. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but
Yeah. They
it
probably just put the two dogs together, being like, all
yeah,
right, whatever, just go play. I didn't
it's been
expect them
working out for
to
him. It's
make
been
it this
working out for him.
far.
That was a crazy first round match they had where they saved like 5 match points in a row to come back and win it.
Yeah. Yeah. Doubles has been exciting this tournament. I'm loving watching Fritz and Paul play together because they have
Yeah.
that energy too. Like after every point, they're just high fiving. Let's go. It's
Yeah.
explosive.
Yeah, it is cool to see the top singles players that never really play doubles, like start playing doubles together.
Yeah. Well, speaking of DC, right? I mean, I feel like this tournament's kind of getting shafted, like overshadowed by the Olympics. Like this is an ATP 500, and this is a tournament that most players play in, and you just have all the talent in the Olympics right now.
I mean, not all the talent. I mean, you still have guys like who Shelton is playing there. So there's some
Dude, but we have all like the American talent.
damn throwing some shade at Shelton there, but
No, he's young. I mean, he's
he's like top
definitely
15 in the
talented.
world,
He's
right?
definitely
Like,
talented. Yeah, I know, but I feel like yeah, you're missing the best guys in the world, straight up.
yeah, I mean,
The best guys in the world.
you're missing a lot of the top guys. I'm not going to deny that, but I still feel like it is like who played in the City Open last year? Was it actually all of the top guys, or was it like you had maybe one or two guys in the top 10 and three guys in the top 20, and then other than that, it was like some guys below that. Like I don't think it was last year every single guy in the top 10 played there, and then this year
Yeah.
you have none. I think
Yeah.
maybe you're missing two or three guys that would have played there that aren't, and uh, that's how it's working out. I don't think it's really a situation where all the top guys were playing there and now none of them are. But it also is like it is kind of a rare thing. It's like this only happens once every 4 years, so it's
Mhm.
like it isn't it isn't like every year they're having to deal with this. So
Right.
I
Right.
guess
Yeah,
that's
no,
the whole situation.
I agree. That's a good point. I think where you're missing a lot of the talent is from the American players. And because yeah, you're right. I don't think players come over to the US this early to start. But yeah, I mean, you're probably missing some South American players too. That's an easy trip. Um, anyway, yeah, it kind of, I don't know if this will impact the tournament revenue itself. Like if less people are buying tickets because of it, because of the less names. I mean, this will be something we can touch back next week and see how impacted it really was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it's necessarily impacted just by that, but just by the fact that the Olympics are such a massive sports event. It's like how many
Mhm.
people are paying to go watch tennis right now versus staying home and just watching the Olympics in general.
That's true. Yeah, I'm sure not many.
Yeah,
Like whatever they're showing on TV is definitely not getting watched.
100%. Yeah. But speaking on another American tournament, Nishioka getting that title in Atlanta. What do you think about that?
I mean, this guy's won a title since 2022, so pretty shocked and happy for him.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
that's there's really
it's
not much to say. Yeah, it's
yeah, it's
pretty
cool.
cool.
I mean, I think he's a guy that you don't even think like I was kind of surprised to learn that it wasn't his first title overall. Like
Yeah,
I wasn't even thinking about like because he's a guy where it's like, yeah, you see him in a tournament and you're like, okay, he might get a couple wins, but I would never really think of him as a title contender. And I think he's maybe a guy like you were talking about that can kind of seize the opportunity here with there being a little bit of like top guys missing. He can maybe step up. He's like, I can beat a guy like Shelton or a guy like in the top 20, maybe. Maybe I can't beat uh Rublev, or I mean Rublev was a bad example. Maybe I
great
can't
example.
maybe I can't beat Medvedev, let's say, but I can beat Shelton, or I can beat Umber or someone like a little
Mhm.
bit lower to get that title, and seems like he seized his opportunity here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, his only other titles were actually in Asia, like Korean tournaments. So I guess his um, first Western Hemisphere title.
Huh.
So it's
Interesting.
yeah,
I guess maybe less travel maybe impacts
yeah.
him. I don't know.
I know his most recent one, the one in 2022, was the Seoul Open.
Okay.
Not even sure if that's still a tournament these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, something else I kind of wanted to mention as like I guess a highlight of the week was something I saw on Twitter or X, formerly Twitter, and people were kind of raving about it. It's that Novak Djokovic follows Andrew Tate on Twitter. And I thought this was hilarious because someone like who I don't know, the person who found it must have just been going on Andrew Tate's Twitter and saying, "Oh, followed by Novak Djokovic," took a screenshot and then just basically was saying how disappointed he is. I thought that was funny. I'm not going to comment too much on it because apparently, or not apparently, but Andrew Tate is a very polarizing guy.
Yeah.
And I think Djokovic is a polarizing person too, in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest, I think more likely it's that they were looking at who Djokovic follows, not who follows Andrew Tate, because it's probably like millions one way and probably like not that many that Djokovic follows.
Well, so it pops up. It's not like a if you're not following someone, you can
Oh,
go
it
on their
says like this
profile
person all
and it'll
is
be a
followed
mutual.
by.
Yeah, mutual.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So yeah, it's easy. It says it right there. And but just the pettiness of posting that,
I mean,
posting that
I just don't know who
screenshot.
gives uh uh a fuck. I mean, I don't know a better way to say that.
Yeah.
Who
Uh,
cares at all?
yeah. Dude, tell me about it. You know who it was? It was the guy who wrote the. Now we're getting really political, and then I'll stop. But it was the guy who wrote the slam piece on Zverev regarding his like domestic abuse trial.
Yeah.
So
I
the
mean,
guy is clearly a
he wants to
feminist.
he wants to
He's a
stir
self,
some stuff.
yeah, yeah. He's a self-described feminist.
I mean, I don't know if that I'm not knocking that part, but he definitely just wants to stir the pot a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
That's all he wants to do. And I'm like, who cares who this guy follows on Twitter? No one
I know,
should really.
I know. But staying on Djokovic, like him being polarizing, he played Nadal recently in the Olympics, and just like after breaking him, he's shushing the crowd, putting his hand up to his ear. Like people did not like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Djokovic is really committing to the fact that he's like, people just don't like me. And he's like,
Yeah,
I try to do these things. And he's like, I'm gonna just do what I want to do. And if people get mad at me, I'm going to mock them. And so that's what he's doing, I
yeah.
guess,
What do you
because
think? I don't think it's disrespectful to Nadal to do that, right? What are your thoughts?
disrespectful. I don't think
Because I
it's
think that was
anything to
yeah,
Nadal.
exactly. I
It's
mean,
he's
if
not
you're the
taking
opponent
action
though,
towards Nadal.
you're right. You're right. I do. I don't know. Nadal might have been a little offended in a way because it's an
Yeah,
extension of the player, the fans, right?
are they? I don't. I think that's a
Yeah, it's a
bold
hot take.
statement.
That's a bold
Saying that
statement.
the fans are the extension of the player.
If they're rooting for you, you got to have some kind of empathy for them, right?
Maybe. I mean, I feel like that's. I think
I don't
it can
know. I
help
mean,
you. Maybe I don't know if I would say that. Like you have an obligation to them. You have a player has no obligation to the fans, really.
no, I didn't say that.
Like,
I didn't say as an obligation. I just said there might be some kind of feeling that he has where it's like, hey,
but no,
the
yeah, I know
thing.
you didn't say it, but what I'm saying is like I feel like what I'm picking up is that like unless I'm mistaken, you're saying like he like almost has like an empathy for them where it's like, oh, you shouldn't attack the fans because they're the ones rooting for me.
It's like an attack on the fans is attack on me. And I'm not saying that this is what he thought, but I'm saying some players could see it that way, especially if it's like I know Nadal's not French, but I
He definitely
oh
has fans at Philippe Chatrier though.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure there was a ton of Spanish fans there too. And like those are your countrymen. And it's the Olympics too. So it's country versus country. It's a little more tense. It's not like an individual player. Like when Nadal plays at Roland Garros for the tournament or plays at Philippe Chatrier for Roland Garros, it's primarily French people that have kind of like I guess adopted Nadal as his own because he's won there so much. Whereas here, I feel like the majority of the crowd were Spanish people and it got tense with Djokovic. You know, you probably had that like country rivalry, not more of a person rivalry.
Yeah, but I mean, so it's not. But like to me, that sounds like you're saying like he feels like obliged to defend them, or feels obliged. Like he
I
feels
didn't say defend. I said there's a feeling. He doesn't
like
need to defend. He doesn't need to be like, hey, Djokovic knocked that off. He could just sit in his head and be like, damn, that's a dick move that he's doing that to the fans.
so
Like there
in
was some kind of thought. What I'm saying, there was a thought that came across Nadal's head when Djokovic did that.
okay. So you're saying he was offended by it because it was to the fans.
I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm speculating, but I
Okay.
said there could be. And
I
I guess I'm wondering for my original question was, do you think it's disrespectful for Djokovic to do that?
I mean, I think it's in general, I would say, yeah, it's probably disrespectful to the fans, but I don't think it's disrespectful to Nadal.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But
And
I,
I
I feel
think
like it's also kind of like a two wrongs don't make a right sort of situation. It's like it's not right for them to like be against him necessarily. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say I'm sure the fans are pretty disrespectful to Djokovic.
Exactly. It's like just because,
There's
but
a
but it's
higher standard
yeah.
for the
I mean,
player.
it's just like it's not just because they're disrespectful to him doesn't mean he has to be disrespectful back. It's like sometimes you can
Yeah.
take the high road, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of what he does. That's his personality.
Yeah, it's
He's
not Joe. I mean, he just did the same thing in the Olympics and
yeah.
had the same reaction. I feel like,
Yeah. And like Runa, he does it too.
yeah, yeah,
He's someone that comes to mind. Medvedev.
yeah,
Like there are two camps of players. Players who engage with the fans and then players who don't let them bother. Don't get phased
yeah.
by it.
But what do you notice about all the guys that engage with the fans in a negative way? It's the guys that
They're elite.
perceive, or it's like like I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, it's kind of a self fulfilling sort of thing where it's like the guys that are hated on by the fans are the guys that uh like also give out hate to the fans. So it's like Medvedev gets hated on, and so he responds to the crowd. Runa gets hated on, he responds to the crowd. I think at some point in their career, they started responding to the crowd, and then it starts to build, and it starts to build, and it
Yeah.
starts to get worse and worse. And it's like, if you can make it through your first few years and you can be like rude, where you're like, oh, I don't respond to anything at all.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like there's no negative perception towards you, and so you don't get that like sort of hate from the crowd when you're playing.
Yeah. No, totally, totally. And then also, I think being hated on is a sign of success too. Like I've seen, this is probably a shirt I've seen on like a Fort Lauderdale beach boardwalk where it's just that raunchy shirt that says, if you ain't being hating on, you ain't doing shit. And that has always stuck with me because look, like people hate on people that they're envious of. And I think these players, they put in so much of this craft and they just can't help but get pissed off by it. And like they're not afraid to dish it back.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Another notable thing that happened, I guess, you know, in the past week, but Sinner not playing in the Olympics, which would have been a great showdown if he were to meet Alcaraz or whoever. But he gives Vavasori a chance, who's ranked 207th, to get in there and play in the Olympics.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I did see some things where people were a little bit angry. Because I did you see the thing that Matthew Ebden posted when he got like a surprise draw into the singles draw of the Olympics, and he played
Mhm.
Djokovic in the first round, and he got absolutely clobbered by him because he hadn't played a singles match in like 3 years or something like that, like a really long time, because he's mainly a doubles guy. Like he's
Yeah.
won doubles grand slams and stuff. But the funny thing about it was people were like commented on his post where he brought up that he was going to be playing in singles, and they were like, oh, you're taking this chance away from other guys that should be playing in that. And the thing about it is like the reason he played in it was because essentially someone else pulled out, and they were like, what other tennis players do we have at the
Yeah.
Olympic Games?
Yeah.
And I just think it's kind of funny how that works, where it's like, yeah, depending when someone pulls out, depending how that works, it's like you may get some random guy thrown in there. And that's what's weird about the Olympics is it's in a normal tournament that would be a lucky loser. So it would be a
Mhm.
singles guy that almost qualified. Whereas here they're just like throwing in a guy that had no intention of playing singles and ended up playing it. I mean, with Vavasori, obviously he's ranked 207th, so he does play a lot of singles, but
Mhm.
it's still a guy that definitely was not expecting to be there.
Yeah, no, I know. And well, the condition was tonsillitis. That's why Sinner couldn't play.
Damn,
Yeah.
feels
And
bad.
then
That's a crazy one.
that is crazy, right? Because you
I
just
mean,
can't stay healthy.
it's kind of like appendicitis, where it's like, yeah, you can get your tonsil removed, and it's like it's not really a big deal, but it's just such a hassle.
Yeah, I know. It is pain in the ass. But another injury or another person that didn't play in the Olympics because of injury was Runa. He's still suffering from that wrist because last week when we talked about it, it was still up in the air whether or not he was going to play. So ultimately he opted out as well.
Yeah, and I think
Better
there's
move.
an extension of that where it's the Olympic aspect does play into it, where you're like, he'd love to play in the Olympics, but he's also like, in terms of my career, it's not that worth it.
Exactly. And he's young. He'll have other chances.
Yeah, 100%.
So who's your favorite for winning this Olympic gold medal? This elusive medal for Djokovic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're looking at top contenders, I feel like it really boils down to three people in my mind, and that's Alcaraz, Djokovic, and Zverev. Obviously, you have Alcaraz, who is like the hottest guy in the world right now in terms of playing level.
In terms of looks.
Yes, obviously, in terms of looks. No, in terms of playing level, he just won the uh, Channel Slam. He won the French and Wimbledon. He is coming back to play at the French Open venue in Paris. Just won a Grand Slam there. He has to feel a ton of confidence there. And I feel like because of all these things, like he's probably the number one favorite guy to win it. You have Djokovic, who you can never count out, and he is definitely incredibly hungry to win this title. Like,
Mm.
you compare him to these other guys who maybe don't care as much about the Olympic gold. He's like, this is the one thing I need in terms of like cementing this last little bit in the history books. And then you have Zverev, who has been playing great this year, did very well, made the final at the French Open, and is the defending Olympic champ. So
Mm.
I wonder if that confidence aspect is there, and like knowing what it's like to be in the Olympic Village. I mean, I don't know how big of a part that's going to play, but he definitely is still a top contender, regardless of that part of it, just because of how well he played at the French Open and has been playing this year overall.
Yeah, you mentioned the Olympic Village, and I just immediately thought of Djokovic trying to stay in the Olympic Village, and it's like an absolutely not, right? Like he's got his climate control, his vegan diet, his probably like crazy bed that tracks how much sleep he's getting. Like he's not staying in the Olympic Village. That is too funny.
Yeah, I did see
I wonder
something
if
that
yeah, I
was
wonder if
about
any
that.
tennis players are.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, speaking on that, yeah,
Yeah.
I saw something about that where Coco Gauff made a comment that was like, I noticed that like as soon as I got to the Olympic Village, like half the people that were in the opening ceremony just like left and went to a hotel.
Yeah.
And but then she like met Nadal there. Someone was like, if Nadal can do it, I can stay
Yeah.
here too. So it's
Yeah.
like
Well,
I guess it just depends on the person.
I know. I know the US team had like 80 air conditioners ordered in
Yeah,
for because they don't have AC.
well, I've just heard it's like the Olympic Village is essentially like just this massive party that's constantly going on, especially probably the later on in the Olympics it gets,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's just these athletes that spend their entire lives training for something, and then you finish the Olympics and you're like, oh my god, let loose. Like imagine you're at the Olympics and you like finish your event on day two, and then you're like,
Hmm.
I'm just gonna be here for like 2 more weeks,
Oh
just
yeah.
hanging out with all these people and partying and just letting it loose for a little bit until I go back and start training again.
I know. I've seen some funny Alcaraz memes because he took a picture with like the whole, I don't know, Netherlands track team, all these beautiful girls.
Yeah.
Oh,
Classic Alcaraz.
I know.
I
I
said he was
know.
the hottest guy in the tennis world.
Yeah. In more than one way.
Yeah. Um, but speaking on Djokovic, what do you think about his chances here?
I think they're pretty good. Um, I'm wondering if he would just retire if he wins this gold. I feel like it's kind of likely. What do you think?
I mean, I think if he wins the gold, he's at least finishing out the year. I mean,
You think?
I think he's going to go for a last U.S. Open. I mean, because honestly, he hasn't. He's won what, 3 or 4 U.S. Opens. So it's
Yeah.
not his most dominant tournament. I think he'd love to have another U.S. Open to retire with, as well. So I think he'd finish out the year. I don't know if he'd play in 2025 though. I think he would definitely start actively winding it down, because it's like at
Yeah.
this point in his career, it's like it has been kind of slowly winding down a little bit just because of how old he is. But I think
Mhm.
it would become more of like, okay, I'm actually planning on when I'm going to retire.
Yeah, it's a good question because I think when or if he gets this gold, I think all that hunger inside him just subdues and he kind of he'll play. Yeah, maybe he'll finish out the year, but he won't really be upset if he loses. I feel like he'll just be content. And I think I don't know if he would get to that point where he wants to just be in tournaments and lose. Like I think I could see him retiring on a high note after this. It's I guess only time will tell.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, that'd be kind of crazy to have him, team, and Nadal all be gone at the end of this year, and you're
So
like,
and your boy.
and Murray, obviously, yeah. So it's like that entire era is just like boop, we're gone, and now it's
Yeah.
just Alcaraz, Sinner, and whoever else can try to win a slam
I
left
know.
out there.
I know. All right, you want to hop into segments?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. What's new in tennis? What'd you see this week?
Ooh, I got a good one. So, tennis's most toxic couple, they break up for the third time.
Tsitsipas
Eh,
and Badosa.
The other one, the
Oh,
most
okay.
toxic couple. They've only broken up twice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, Holger Rune and Patrick Mouratoglou are done. Finito. Not really a shocker here. I feel like being a coach for Rune has to be the worst job security in the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They're just on a break, actually.
yeah, they're on a break. Exactly. They're seeing other people. They're
Yeah.
figuring each other out. But I mean, he went from number 4 to number 17 in the last year. So I feel like something had to be done, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't know he actually got all the way up to number 4. Like, that's a little
yeah,
surprising to me.
yeah.
But
Well, I just,
I knew he was like what? Like, I thought of him in my head as like number 6 or 7
mm,
at his peak. And, but yeah, I think he he's having that sort of thing we saw with some other guys. We saw it with FAA. It's less extreme than FAA last year, but
mhm,
it's like we saw it with Tiafo right now. This is a less extreme version than that too. But it's like you get the up to the peak and then you get kind of that turn down. And I think it just happens. And sometimes guys expect to be able to perform at their peak level every single year and just continue to get better.
mhm,
Because I mean, that's what guys like Alcaraz and Sinner have done, is just
yeah.
get better and better every single year. And Runa hasn't necessarily been able to continue to build and build and build on his game. We'll see what happens if he can figure out a new coach, but I don't know how much the coach is actually impacting that drop.
Exactly, because it's not just Patrick. I mean, I feel like at this point you have to ask yourself, is it the coach or is it the execution of the player? And I don't know if he's not giving the coaches enough time or if he's kind of not being coachable.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see when he gets a new coach if this helps. I feel like he's got to get better somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
But when you change a coach that quickly, it's really tough to be able to be like, this is what's causing this.
yeah.
It's like if you have a coach for 5 years and then you change coaches and you immediately go way up in rankings, like,
Mhm.
okay, the change of coach was necessary. Like when Vavrinka went from being like a kind of middle of the road, very solid, but not like a Grand Slam champion level player, changes coaches and then he starts winning slams. Seems like the coach had an impact.
Yeah, no, totally. Totally. What about you? What did you see this week?
Uh, my big thing this week was I saw that Berrettini got back-to-back titles. So he won
Ooh.
in Kitzbühel, and he's actually up to number 40 in the rankings now. And in the year-to-date rankings for 2024, he's actually number 27 in the world. So he just continues to have an impressive return year in 2024 after being gone for a while. And I think he's just showing that like he still has that top level in there somewhere. And like these are tournaments where it's like, yeah, he's not necessarily beating Alcaraz or Sinner in these
hmm
tournaments, but he's still beating very solid players and is continuing to climb back up into the higher echelons of the sport.
Yeah, this is great progress. Like you said, kind of like they're not major titles, but they're still wins, and he's stacking them up. It's funny if Berrettini was a stock, this would have been a home run in the beginning of the year. This guy just like
Yeah.
bottomed out and shot up.
Invest at the January 1st, 2024, and he would be up like 5,000% or
Yeah,
whatever.
bullish on Berrettini.
Exactly.
All right.
How
Speaking
about
of
bet of
speaking
the
of
week?
degenerate gambling,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Who are you
am
going for?
I'm taking Tommy Paul, man. He is plus 475 over Alcaraz. And I feel like they're too close together for the value to be that high. I feel like there's just too much upside.
I
Like,
was
how do you not?
looking at this. Yeah, I was very close to picking this for my bet of the week too. My issue was, even though the value was there, I was like, I don't know if I can take Tommy winning it just because of how well Alcaraz has been playing, not only recently, but also I feel like the clay advantage is going to go to Alcaraz. I mean, I know Alcaraz isn't necessarily 100% healthy, but it's
Mhm.
like he does have the fact that he just won the French Open. He just won Wimbledon. He's very good on clay. I know they have a closer head to head, but it's like there's a lot of things. It's not like they're playing on a surface that favors Tommy Paul here.
Yeah, no, trust me. It's a lot of risk, which is why it's plus 475. But like you said, Alcaraz, he kind of tweaked his leg last match. I'm kind of factoring that in. He had to take an injury timeout. And I think while Alcaraz definitely has the advantage in a 5-set match, this is only 3 sets, and I can see Tommy Paul jumping ahead like he did last time he played him, winning the first set, and then Alcaraz may or may not be making those adjustments. Like, trust me, if this was going 5 sets, Tommy could win the first two and Alcaraz can win the next three, and I wouldn't be surprised. But here he just needs to get two. And I don't know. I'm gonna go with it. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. One interesting thing about this is like I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like in 2012 when they played at Wimbledon in
2012.
in the London, not these two guys, no,
Oh,
when they played the Olympics in
yeah.
London in 2012 and it was played at Wimbledon, I feel like it was a best of 5 set tournament. Maybe I'm wrong, but
No. I mean, yeah, no, these are out
we
of
can check that later. But it is interesting
no,
to
they're
think
out
of
of
because
they're out of maybe the final, but
you
these
know, no,
matches.
because I know these ones are. But what I'm saying is like I feel like that tournament they played best of 5. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, okay. Maybe they changed the rules.
Yeah, because it's like how like Davis Cup they used to do like
Yeah.
best of 5 for some of the matches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean they can't have all these delays for the Olympics, right?
Yeah,
You saw they delayed the triathlon.
yeah, but then again, like how is tennis? It's like it's not like it's all at the same venue. It's like the tennis tournament is like essentially a
Yeah.
separate thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
our
how the
own.
surfing in the Olympics is like it's in Tahiti. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, it's not in Paris, so it's like you can have that literally whenever. It's not going to
Yeah.
impact the scheduling of other things. It like obviously that there is an impact there where it's like oh we have to hold on to the 200 meter and it's being delayed and that's going to make the
Mhm.
400 meter have to go later or whatever.
Yeah. No,
But
totally. Let's definitely check on that because I'm curious. But who are you taking this week?
I'm taking Impeshi Pericard plus 120 over Rusevori.
Ooh.
Rusevori had a really long, grindy match in his last match, really close. Uh, and then Pericard, I just feel like this guy's exploded onto the scene out of nowhere. Like
Mhm.
he was like 3 or 4 months ago, nobody knew who this guy was really, and then all of a sudden he's like competing in bigger tournaments and like winning smaller tournaments, and you're like, who is this guy? I've never heard of him before. Also, I think he's going to be fresh because he got a bye in this tourney they're playing in, and I just don't think the odds reflect how hot he's been recently.
I can't agree more. I'm looking at this shocked that he's plus 120. Wow. Vegas, man.
Yeah,
All right, so how about match of the week? What are you going with?
I mean, speaking of Rusevori, I'm going with his match over Coric as my match of the week. I mean, it was a marathon match. super tight first two sets. It was actually interesting because in both of the first two sets, it looked like Ruusuvuori might break at 5-5. Like there were no breaks in the sets. And then at 5-5, it looked like Ruusuvuori was going to break. He didn't. First set, he ended up losing it in a tiebreak. Second set, he did win in the tiebreak. So for first two sets, go one each, go to the third set. And it was really interesting because there was a super tight game 1-2 where Coric had 4 break points. He couldn't convert them. And then Ruusuvuori immediately comes out in the next game and dominates, gets the break. And that's a situation where it is like kind of clearly a very mental sort of issue for Coric, where he poured all of his energy into getting this break, doesn't get it done. And all of a sudden he's like exhausted, and Ruusuvuori gains so much momentum by being able to hold. And so he comes out in the next game and he has all this momentum, gets the break done, and then he holds on to that to the end to win the match. Overall, it was a tough, really grindy match, but I think a great win for Ruusuvuori.
Yeah, those are always tough with the never-ending break points or those games when you're not on serve, because after that you have to go on serve and it's just exhausting.
Yeah, especially at a point like 1-2 where you don't even get like the changeover to then reset and come back out on your serve. It's like, oh yeah, now you're immediately serving and you have to be stressed about holding on to your own serve.
Yeah, well, you didn't take him for bet of the week, but you are taking him for match of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
What about you? What'd you go for?
Oh, I had to go with Nadal Djokovic. I mean, it wasn't that eventful of a match, but I feel like, you got to do this no matter the scoreline, because it really was the most interesting matchup. Djokovic kind of kicked his ass 6-1, 6-4. There were a couple, I would say the most exciting part was in the second set when Djokovic was up 4-0 and then Nadal battled back, but then ended up losing 6-4. It was just exciting. This is the 60th time they've played. It was at the Roland Garros venue, and there was a lot of hype up for it. So I was there for it. This was my match of the week before the match even started. But like I said, really uneventful.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was the most hyped up match of the week for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to see, even if it's not necessarily the most competitive match. And by the way, I did just check the London Olympics thing, and it turns out it was just the final that was best of 5 sets.
Ah, gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah. Because I remember that Murray beat Federer and it was straight sets.
Yeah.
But I thought it was best of 5, but it turns out it was just that part of the tournament. Just the
Gotcha. Yeah. And fun fact, I saw Murray is the only person to defend his gold medal.
Yeah. We I think we talked about that in why when Quinn picked him in that best seasons of all time, that he was the only guy ever to defend the Olympic gold.
Yeah, there you go.
So unless Zverev does it right now, but
I was gonna say we'll see if Zverev.
Yeah.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.